U.S. fighter jets hit Iran-backed targets in Syria.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said the strikes were, quote, self-defense and that they were in response to a series of recent drone attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. NBC's global security reporter Dan DeLuce and our White House correspondent Ali Rafa join us now to talk about this. Good morning to both of you. Ali, let's start with you. Walk us through what the Pentagon and Austin are saying about these strikes. What are the details we have right now?
Yeah, guys. Well, this was a dramatic retaliation, but also not too surprising considering that since Israel's war with Hamas began on October 7th, we have repeatedly seen White House and Pentagon officials warn any actor, but specifically Iran and its proxy groups, Hamas and Hezbollah, from trying to broaden out this war, from trying to potentially provoke the United States from getting involved and broadening this war out. Defense Department officials saying they won't hesitate to take additional action to protect U.S. forces in this area, saying retaliation would be at the time and place of the U.S.'s choosing. And we saw that retaliation last night. In a statement, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says U.S. military forces conducted self-defense strikes on 2 facilities in eastern Syria used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated groups, a response to a series of ongoing and mostly unsuccessful attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria by Iranian-backed militia groups that began on October 17th. Austin saying Iran wants to deny its role in these attacks against our forces. He says we will not let them. So we understand that 2 F-16 fighter jets specifically targeted weapons and ammunition storage areas in this base in Syria. A defense official saying that those were the types of weapons used on U.S. forces in those attacks. The officials say that only Iranian-backed militia, no civilians were on the base at the time, but they don't have a damage assessment or a casualty count at this time. And guys, it's still unclear whether or how Iran will react to this.
Dan, if you could tell us a little bit more about the attacks the U.S. says its forces have come under in the Middle East over these past few weeks that sparked this.
That's right. So there were nearly daily attacks over 10 days against U.S. forces based in Iraq and Syria, and there were a whole number of U.S. forces that suffered minor injuries, and there was a civilian contractor who was sheltering in place during one of the incidents and died of a cardiac arrest. Here's what Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Patrick Ryder had to say about that.
Between October 17 and 26, U.S. and coalition forces have been attacked at least 12 separate times in Iraq, 4 separate times in Syria, by a mix of one-way attack drones and rockets. I'm not going to have more specific information to provide to you from here in terms of specific groups that have claimed responsibility, other than to say we know that these groups are affiliated with Iran.
So that's him describing the injuries that were suffered. And of course, he's not discussing exactly the specific Iranian-backed groups that carried out some of these rocket and drone attacks, but they're making clear that they hold Iran responsible for the actions of those groups.
So, I mean, Ali, we're also hearing from the White House, President Biden sent a message to Iran's supreme leader warning about these recent attacks. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we heard from the president on Wednesday during a speech that he gave with the Australian Prime Minister in the Rose Garden, where he issued a warning to Iran's Ayatollah. And he said, quote, "My warning to the Ayatollah was that if they continue to move against those troops, we will respond and he should be prepared." And John Kirby was asked about that during yesterday's White House press briefing, really how that warning was delivered. He wouldn't give any details, just saying that it was. But the U.S. is being very clear to stress that this was done separate from the U.S. diplomatic posture in the Middle East surrounding the Israel-Hamas war, that this was done as a deterrent. So this is definitely a delicate dance for this White House, this administration, as it tries to defend U.S. forces without potentially provoking a wider conflict in this area, guys.
And Dan, before we let you go quickly, if you could just explain this to us, because it's an important nuance here. The Pentagon is trying to emphasize that these strikes are separate from the Israel-Hamas conflict, but Iran did warn the U.S. over its support for Israel at this UN meeting yesterday. How much of this is about telling Iran to stay out of what's going on in Israel? Is that at play here?
I think it is at play. There's an implication there, but it's also significant to point out that this is not the first time that President Biden has ordered airstrikes against Iranian-backed groups attacking U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. So in the first months of his term in 2021, he ordered airstrikes in a kind of similar sort of series of incidents, and on another occasion. And it's also so important to point out that Biden did not order strikes directly against Iran in Iranian territory. So that shows you that they're trying to calibrate everything. They're desperately trying to avoid a full-blown regional conflict and protect U.S. forces and try to contain the situation, but also send very firm messages to Tehran not to endanger American troops. So I think we may see more of this. And this is a very perilous moment, and we're not out of this crisis.
All right. Dan, Allie, thank you both. Appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.